Hi, I'm Jack Canfield. You may know me as the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, including Chicken Soup for the Baseball Fan Soul with Tommy Lasorda, and also the author of the Success Principles and featured teacher in the movie The Secret. And if you haven't heard about the 162 Challenge by now, I hope you have. This is a really great pledge opportunity for you to make a difference to 4 charities that are helping kids, that are helping fallen firefighters, that are really making a difference in the world. And what you get to do is for every home run that the Yankees hit, you can pledge from 50 cents up to $5 for every home run. And that money then will be charged to you and go to the cause. And if you're a Yankees fan, you want them to hit home runs, so it's a win-win all around. So I always support anything that supports good causes, so I'm supporting this. So Steve and Marybeth are doing this great challenge. They're going to every single Yankees game this year. That's either a commitment or craziness, but I honor them. I wish I was going. It's really cool. And so you can be part of this. Make sure you pledge, make a difference. We're always asked, what can I do to make a difference? This is how you can. So go and do it right now. Go to 162crew.com.
Okay, welcome back to the 162 Experience. I couldn't be more excited for our guest today. As many of you know that have watched the show, 162 Experience is a show about success in business, sports, and life. And I can't think of anybody that has achieved more success, but more importantly, help others achieve success, and even more importantly, coach others to coach others on having success. So Jack Canfield, thanks for being on the 162 Experience.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So excited. And a couple years ago, I read the Success Principles, and I gave a copy to all of our salespeople, and I gave a copy to the CEO, and he became a big fan. So I don't know if that had anything to do with you being here. I'm not going to take full credit, but we definitely pay it forward.
He just sent a book over for me to sign, the Success Principles, so I think he's a fan now.
He's definitely a fan, and I've been a fan of yours. And when I say fan, I mean somebody that implements what I'm learning for over 20 years now. So thank you so much. And can we start on talking about goal setting? How important are goals? Maybe share the biggest goal you've ever set and achieved.
Well, goals are really important because without goals, you end up working for other people who have them, and so you're never really fulfilling your own vision, your desires and dreams. Only about 3% of people are ever taught how to set goals in high school. By the time they get to college, maybe it's 10%. So we wonder why most people are what we call average. Is because they've never learned how to really design their future. And so a lot of people have hopes, wishes, and intentions, but they never turn it into a measurable, specific goal. And I say a goal has to be measurable by some third person. So how much by when? So if you say a big house on the beach in Malibu, that's not a goal, that's a desire or a wish. But if you say, I will own a 6,000 square foot home on 1 acre of land in Malibu by June 13th, 2019 at 5 p.m., now we have a goal. You can show up, and I either have it or I don't. You can measure it and so forth, and you know when to show up. So goals are critical. They literally tell the subconscious mind, here's what I want exactly, and here's what I want it by when, and then it starts to move forward.
That's powerful. And one thing that I've incorporated after reading the Success Principles is from September of 2014 for about a year and a half, every single day, I got my day started the same way with some rituals of goal setting and affirmations. Maybe you could share, because I've heard you do it on some of your seminars in the Success Principles. How do you start your day?
Well, I start my day with something called the Hour of Power, which is 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of really intense exercise, and then 20 minutes of reading. And usually the reading turns into an hour, and sometimes my meditation turns into an hour, sometimes my exercise, but usually I have about an hour before I have to get into my day. And also I end my meditation with visualizing. I say my affirmations, and I visualize each goal. So let's say I have a goal right now to have 1 million trainers teaching the Success Principles by the year 2030. So I'd say I'm so happy and grateful that I now have 1 million people training the Success Principles. And then I would close my eyes and visualize some image that says I have that. So, it might be a cover of Time magazine saying Jack Canfield reaches awesome goal of 1 million trainers in the world, or something like that. And so I'll go through my entire list of goals as affirmations, and then I visualize that. And then as I come out, I also do a few minutes of gratitude. It's really important. The more you're grateful for what you have, the more you get to have to be grateful for. Most people are focused on what they don't have. They talk about that. So your focus is on lack instead of on having what you want. And when you are grateful, they say that gratitude and appreciation is the highest vibration you can achieve. There was a mystic in Germany once who said the highest prayer you can ever say is thank you. And I think there's some truth to that. I just read about a guy who was a billionaire in Japan, and in Japanese, thank you is arigato. And this guy would chant arigato all day long, just arigato, 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 thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And he says, without a doubt, that's his main secret of having become a billionaire.
That's powerful. My next question is sort of a personal question, because we were talking a little bit before the podcast. Is my girlfriend and I have a goal. We're going to go to every Yankee game this year, and our goal is to raise for charity $162,000. But I think as it starts to go viral, I really think we could hit $1 million. Sometimes people say a stretch goal, but here's my real goal. Which one do you like to do? Do you like to just go for the $1 million and think big, or is it important to find something that you believe you can do?
Well, I think, it's tricky. When we said we were going to sell 1 billion Chicken Soup for the Soul books, everyone laughed at us. And we're now at over 600 million copies sold around the world, and we still have 3 years till our goal deadline is.
That's great.
And like most things, there's a hockey curve that goes up, and what really pushed it was, and we had no idea. See, a lot of people won't set the what they want until they figure out the how to get it. And often what is more true is you got to commit to the what, and then the how shows up. And so we didn't know what the vehicle was going to be. We just knew we wanted to affect 1 billion lives and uplift them. And what happened is in China, they've now printed 315 million books of Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And they're using them in the school with Chinese on one side and English on the other, so kids can learn to read English.
That's
and no one predicted that, but you don't have to. You just have to commit to it. I do say, for most people when I'm working with them, set a minimum goal, a target goal, and a outrageous goal. Okay. So your outrageous goal would be $1 million. Okay. Your target might be, $500,000, and your minimum would be your 162,000. That way, if you reach any of those levels, you don't feel like a failure.
That's great. Well, thank you for my personal advice.
Yeah, you
Hope
got
you don't charge me extra for that.
No, there's no charge.
It seems like when I think about your career that you were on my radar personally about Chicken Soup. Could you bring maybe the watchers back to a time before? People always love the struggles and tribulations, and sometimes they don't know if you've had them, or could you share that time?
Oh, I've had them. I grew up in West Virginia. So
there you go.
My mother was an alcoholic. My dad was an alcoholic. My dad was violent. My mother got divorced. I graduated from the half of the class in college that made the top half possible. I remember living in an apartment that cost me $120 a month. And I made, it cost me $79 a month, and I made $120 every 2 weeks. So my first paycheck, basically $80, went out, and I had $40 to live for 2 weeks on. And I ate these 11-cent or 21-cent meals. It was 11-cent can of contadina tomato paste and 10% spaghetti noodles, garlic salt. That was it. Today it'd be top ramen, but that didn't exist back then. And when Chicken Soup was, when we first submitted it, we were rejected by 144 publishers. It took us over, I'd say it was 18 months before we found a publisher willing to publish the book. And then it was 14 months before we hit a bestseller list. And we called it the calm before the calm. Nothing was happening. The book gets published and still nothing's happening. But we did something called the Rule of 5, which I also teach, which is every day do 5 specific action steps. So that at the end of the year, you've taken over 1,500 steps to get toward your goal.
That's powerful.
You can go to any tree with an axe. I don't care how big it is. You take 1,500 whacks at it, that tree's going to come down. And so it's that consistency over time. And in 14 months, we hit number 15 on the Washington Post. And Mark and I, and then it just kept climbing until we got to number 1 in the New York Times. And then we were on there for 3 years in a row in the number 1 position. But it was that consistency. But when we published that book, Mark Victor Hansen, my co-author, and I, we were both about $140,000 in debt on credit cards. Wow. Because we were just funding our businesses.
Sure.
And, you know about startups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Mark is absolutely one of my favorite speakers. Like, go like this, say, touch it hard. And I just love it. What's it like to work with Mark?
It's a trip. Mark's ADD, which is great for a motivational speaker. He's the thing with Mark is so enthusiastic. You catch the enthusiasm. He may not always have every fact correct. There's something we used to call Mark math. If we sold 800,000, Mark would say we sold 8 million. We always took a zero off. But he was so believing in anything was possible. And that was Mark's real contribution to almost everybody. You felt like you could walk on water or walk through a wall after hearing him speak.
Yeah, without a doubt. And watching I don't know if you ever had the satellite where you had your programs on, but we used to watch you guys in our own living room, and we really, believed back then we were going to change the world one family at a time through the television set. So and that particular plan didn't work out, but it led us here. We've had a great, and that's just how things sort of work out. Do you remember your first time about hearing goal setting, or hearing that, hey, like success principles is like go from where you are to where you want to be? When did you really start buying into that?
I was a teacher in Chicago. That's when I was in that $79 a month apartment.
Yep.
And I was teaching in an all-black inner city high school, and the kids were not motivated. I always wanted to learn as much as I could about anything. And so I began to figure out, how can I motivate these kids? And underneath that, I discovered they had low self-esteem. They didn't believe they could learn, so why try?
Sure.
And so I heard of a man named W. Clement Stone who was running these achievement motivation programs. So I went and I took one and learned how to motivate my kids. And because they were not doing anything in the inner city, mostly in the suburbs, they said, we want you to come work for us. And so I did. And so I started running around all of the Midwest and eventually the country, teaching teachers how to motivate their kids, how to build their self-esteem. And then one day this person said to me, my husband's company needs what you're teaching. And I went, I only worked in one company, and that was as a floor sweeper in a General Electric plant between college and graduate school. I said, I don't think so. He said, no, they're just big kids in suits. Now you go over and teach them. But it was at that workshop where I learned, and then I got to work for Stone for a couple of years. And he wrote a book called The Success System Never Fails. He was a close friend of Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich. They co-authored a book together. Wow. So I was introduced to these principles, which I'd never learned. They weren't taught in school. They weren't taught in college. But they were so, Stone he said, I want you to set a goal that's so huge that if you achieve it, you'll know it's only because I taught you these things. So here I was as a teacher. By the time I finally had a full-time job, it was $8,000 a year. And I said, I want to set a goal to make 100,000 because it's measurable, you can round it up and all that. And I had no idea how to do it. Now, it took me 2 years to do that, but I eventually wrote a book called 100 Ways to Enhance Self-Concept in the Classroom. We sold tons of them, and as a result of that, I didn't hit 100, it was like $93,238. But my wife said, honey, we succeeded. We did real well.
I bet. And so you went through adversity in your early days. Did you feel like even at success, though, the adversity was just bigger, or your problems became bigger at certain points? Whenever what happens, you always have challenges, and the bigger game you play, you're going to have bigger challenges. And I said, if you want to grow really fast and big, create bigger goals, because you're going to have to grow. And one of the things Stone taught me as well, he called it a breakthrough goal, a goal that would literally quantum leap you, not a little goal like 20% increase in your income, which is kind of what most people do, but double, triple your income, or reach all of China or whatever. Yeah. And it forces you to grow. You have to learn how to enroll. In the case of network marketing companies, you got to learn how to be a better manager. You have to learn how to motivate people. You got to learn how to manage money. You got to learn how to borrow money from banks to get started. Whatever it is. But the value of this, and I tell people this, the ultimate payoff of being successful financially is not the money. It's who you've become in the process. Because you could lose all the money. We've seen people do that. Sure. But who they became is never taken away. Yeah. They've learned how to negotiate, how to ask, how to not fear rejection, how to get up in the morning and work hard, how to enroll people in their teams, how to motivate others. And that's the real payoff, is your personal development. Sure. One of my favorite, you have a lot of, I call Jackisms. They're just great little terms, and one of them is, and I'll make sure I pronunciate it correctly, asshole. Yes. You want to become an asshole. Yes. You could talk about that. Well, interestingly enough, one day I was teaching, and I said, I was talking about asking. You got to ask. You got to not be afraid of rejection. When they say no, you say next. If they say no, you say what would have to happen for you to say yes, and find out. And I said, it just popped out of my head, you've got to become an asshole, And everybody laughed, and so I kept that in my talk forever, and I think we all need to learn to do that. I just had a guy, I put on a fundraiser at my house for a guy running for lieutenant governor in California, and he has to ask all day long. He's got to raise $5 million in the next 30 days, and he's only about $1.3 million. So, you can't be afraid of asking. And if they say no, I always say, so what? You didn't have it when you asked, you don't have it now, life didn't get worse. So I say rejection's a myth, and just go and ask for what you want. That's great. And just a minute or two more, if that's okay.
Sure.
I really certainly appreciate your time. I know you're in between, a lot of things here at our event. This movie, The Secret.
Yes.
Do you feel if you had to do it all over again, do you feel like the message was the right message? I know it was a sensation. A lot of people say maybe they didn't talk enough about action in the movie. What was your take on that?
Well, the thing is, they did talk about action in the movie, but I think the thing that was new for most people knew you have to work hard to get where you want to go and all that. The thing I think that was new for people is that they didn't realize the power of your thoughts, the power of intention, how the universe responds, how your subconscious responds, how the law of attraction really works. But there are people in there talking about action, and I always teach the last 6 letters in the word attraction are ACTION. So there's a clue in there. So I don't think in 1 hour of a movie you can teach everything you need to know about everything in relation to success, but that was a piece most people didn't have, and I've gotten, I would say, probably 100,000 emails and letters over the last however many years it's been, a lot of them saying, thank you, that movie changed my life.
Absolutely, it was great. It was great. And
but action's important. Listen,
absolutely.
I don't want to underestimate that.
No, absolutely. And and I mean, why ask if you're not looking to put something into action and whatnot. So, hey, final question for Jack Canfield here on the 162 Experience. If you had to do it all over again, you were giving yourself advice at age 18. Looking back, what would you say to yourself?
I would have said several things. Don't be so shy. Ask more girls out. So I was very shy. I would say write sooner, because writing changed my life. I would say ask sooner, because I wasn't someone going around asking until I met W. Clement Stone. And I would have taught myself to meditate much earlier on than I did. I think meditation is one of the most powerful tools, totally underutilized in our culture. A lot of people do it. CEO of Ford Motor meditates every day. I mean, very successful people. Sometimes they don't talk about it much, but I can't think of anyone I know that's super successful that doesn't do some form of meditation.
That's powerful. Do you use like an audio guide? Or?
I did when I started, because I think your mind tends to kind of go off in all directions, so you need to kind of keep focused. If you have music, it helps focus the mind as well. And for me, I've now created an audio program called Awakening Power, which has got 12 guided visualizations and meditations on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's available to people.
Really?
And this will be an unabashed plug at my website.
No, please.
JackCanfield.com.
JackCanfield.com. And I'm really interested for myself as well as my listeners about working with you directly and being one of your teachers. How would someone go about do that?
Yeah, and this is really my #1 goal. I want to train, as I said, 1 million people. We've now trained in the last few years over 2,500 people. Strong. We have people in 107 countries teaching this work now, because we're training it online as well as live. So only take about 50 people a year for the live training. It's a higher level of certification.
Great.
But for our online program, anyone can do it. Basically, it's about 40 hours of online training at 24/7. You have access to everything in there for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And it's me presenting. You see how I do it. I teach you how to do it. We give you the scripts. We give you PDFs for the workbook pages, so when you're running a workshop. And we have a community that goes on forever. And we have coaches that can coach you if you get stuck. We have chat rooms, everything you need to be successful. And if you're a coach, if you're a manager, if you're in a multi-level marketing company, you want to motivate, not just motivate, but really teach people the principles so they become more powerfully successful. Just go to jackcanfield.com or trainthetrainer.com.
That's great. And are you still actively involved in like being there for the weekend that they come? Or?
Yeah, no, anything live that we do, I'm there. I'm
awesome.
90% of it. I'm not a video.
That's
I'm
great.
not. I don't have my trainers there training others. We may do that someday.
Sure.
But for now, it's me. I love
great.
teaching. I don't want to give it up to anyone else.
No, it's awesome. And again, I've learned so much from you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, the ripple effect is in full effect with you, and others are spreading your good message. So Jack Canfield, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
Okay, guys, it's been another show of the 162 Experience with Jack Canfield. We'll see you guys next time.